Україна! Україна! Свята мати героїв!
Ukrainian soldiers make a pledge, take an oath, and vow to fight to the end.
Бурою вітрів кавказьких!
The sun hadn't risen yet that morning. It was around 4:30 a.m. Russian forces launched an intense attack on Ukrainian positions with heavily armored units.
Где?
This is the outskirts of the city of Avdiivka in Donetsk. In this archival footage, you'll see Ukrainian forces defending their position with great effort.
Давай, расставимся. Тише, ты тут контролируй. Пидоры там.
Some scenes have been omitted from the video in accordance with YouTube's community guidelines. You can learn some very important lessons regarding military training from this video. This video was prepared for that purpose. Don't forget to subscribe and like the video.
Давайте, гранату, давайте. Пидор уже близко. Пидор уже близко. Пидор уже близко. Гранату. Можешь кинуть? Да.
Значить, дивись, один сідає там і займає, криє оцей сектор. Другий сидить трошки отут позаду і дивиться оце от. І комунікуєте з нами. Якщо якась хуйня кричите, що ви бачите, то до чого стріляєте. Бачите, що хтось іде, зразу стріляєте. Все, плюс.
Knowing how crucial this area was to the course of the war, Russian special forces planned to launch an attack both early in the morning and with a large convoy. Ukrainian forces have been using drones much more effectively in recent times. For this reason, the Russians chose to advance under the cover of night to minimize their losses. However, Ukrainian drone operators have advanced new systems at their disposal, and I suspect the Russians are unaware of this.
Макс,
Я.
дай этому немцу, какой эконом.
Немец, эконом БК. Еврей, оттягивайся, перезаряжайся. Давай, отбегай, просто отбегай, здесь, отбегай. Вот, перезаряжайся и строй.
To help viewers better understand the video, we tried as much as possible not to cut out the Ukrainian soldiers' conversations. We believe this is important for viewers to experience the genuine emotions and reality of the situation.
Не вылазь. Ну-ка, расскажи, как, что там было.
Ну там з лівої сторони 3 підора бігла.
И что, положили их?
Положив, вони сидять там. Вони їх от трапили, ми їх валюнули. Ці назад заховали.
Простоїмо, вони потім сидять, короче.
It appears that several Ukrainian soldiers were hit during close-range combat and collapsed to the ground. However, they are still alive. The footage captured by the soldier wearing the GoPro camera will show the evacuation of the wounded soldiers. However, this will have to be done right in the middle of the fighting. Evacuating the wounded in the midst of such intense fighting is extremely dangerous, because if an armored vehicle were to arrive here, it could be targeted by Russian FPV drones. This is not a risk worth taking right now. Therefore, the wounded soldiers will have to wait for a while. Meanwhile, the fighting will continue. Tensions are high and the situation is tense.
Нема набоїв?
Пригнулись, так сіли.
The Russians are gradually closing in on Ukrainian positions, and tensions are escalating by the minute. They've come within striking distance. Both sides are fighting with everything they've got.
Чого?
Групи зміщуються до нас.
Да.
Ти чув все, то що я говорив?
Я чув, що зміщується до нас, я не розумію, як він
Вони
там
хочуть, щоб
піде.
Пуфік ми штурманули, типа. Я запросив допомогу FPV дронів російських, але вони кажуть, що дуже багато переміщень, вони типа старатимуться, але, блядь, вони не справляються з усіма позиціями.
Я розумію, тобто не взяли ні мама, ні тот самий, вони всі відкатують сюди до нас відкатуються. А як там підери будуть відкатуватися? Якщо вони їх подождуть спину, то да. Вірус, Балу, я ґрунт. Я знаходжусь на лівому флангі Рекса, по центру і на правому флангі Рекса підери. Так що будьте обережні, коли заходите до мене і можете їх і бачити в спину, як прийняли. Друже, я вже годину не можу пройти туди далі по трексу, я з ним воюю, пройти не можу. Як прийняв?
The Russians have advanced very close, and Ukrainian forces are not receiving sufficient drone support. That's why it's very difficult to defend the position. On top of that, some soldiers have been wounded. They need to be evacuated as soon as possible. If you listen to the sounds of gunfire and explosions, you'll better understand just how intense the fighting is.
Да. Эх.
С этой стороны.
Take a good look at where the soldier is pointing. It looks like the Russians have started advancing into the Ukrainian trenches. That's why we need to be even more careful in the trench corridors, because an enemy infantryman could appear at any moment. That's the last thing you'd want to happen. The Russians have moved up to their positions with heavy armored vehicles and disembarked their troops. In addition, they're trying to attack from the air with drones. Fortunately, Ukrainian drone operators aren't letting them get away with it and are trying to shoot down the Russian drones in mid-air. However, drones cannot stop artillery shells. An artillery shell can be a devastating attack for soldiers in the trenches. Have you ever encountered a scene this tense before?
Ми будемо пробувати просувати.
Що там?
Hours passed like this on the front lines. Ukrainian forces repelled the Russian attack by making the best use of all the resources at their disposal. Then an armored vehicle arrived, and the mission to evacuate all the wounded soldiers began. Meanwhile, new soldiers will take the place of the wounded. In this way, the position will continue to be defended.
Да. Мужики, прошу вас, назад на ноги мої.
The mission to evacuate the soldiers in the trenches and defend the position was successfully carried out. Ukrainian forces repelled the Russian attack and began successfully transporting their wounded comrades to the hospital. Please share your thoughts on the video in the comments. I did not include some of the footage here due to community guidelines. I take YouTube's community guidelines seriously.
Нога!
Стоп.
Тихо. Та.
Here too, the soldiers in the other armored vehicle are being evacuated.
Просто,